Hello everyone, I'm going to work through a couple of examples here on how to construct a one sample z interval for the population mean. So hopefully you'll be using this to help you review and prepare and get ready for a future test on Chapter 9 and Chapter 10. So here's your first example. A Gallup poll conducted in January of 2005 asked 150 teenagers between the ages of 13 and 17, typically how many hours per week do you spend watching TV? The teenagers who participated in the survey watched on average 13 hours of TV per week. Prior surveys have established the population standard deviation to be 2.3 hours per week. Our job is to construct a 90% confidence interval for the average number of TVs that teenagers watch per week. Okay, so to get us started on this, we're going to remember to panic. So first off, we want to list the parameters that we have been provided. So that's the P. So it says the teenagers who participated in the survey watched 13 hours. So that's X bar. So X bar equals 13 hours. It also told us that the population standard deviation, sigma, is 2.3 hours. Okay, those are the parameters that we know. We need to test our assumptions. So there's 3 assumptions for confidence intervals. First, it told us that this was, well, it didn't tell us that it was random, so we must assume this is a simple random sample. We also need to establish that it is approximately normal, and it said that they asked 150 teenagers. So then we can say the large sample size allows us to assume normality. And finally, sigma, the population standard deviation, is known. Okay, those are our 3 assumptions. So first step, second step, third step. We need to name what we're doing. What test or what interval are we doing? This is called a one sample z interval for the mean. Okay, that's the name of this particular test. The reason it's important to name your test or to name your interval is because we're going to be doing a lot of different means and intervals. They all have different names. They all require different procedures. So it's important to name what it is you're doing. The fourth step is the I. We need to actually find the interval. So here we're going to use the formula. So it's going to be 13 plus or minus. I would look in my book or in the pink book and figure out what the z critical value is for 90%. 1.645 times the standard deviation, which is 2.3, divided by the square root of the sample size, which is 150. From here, I'm simply going to go to my calculator, and I'm going to use the z interval in the stats menu. I don't need to show anything. I don't need to say anything because I've shown the formula I'm using. Now I'll just let my calculator do the work for me. And the calculator will put in there, you'll go to the z interval, put in the appropriate numbers, and if you do that, it should give you 12.691 to 13.309. If you're not sure how to do that on your calculator, you should definitely ask me in class. And finally, the most important thing is the conclusion. So since this is a confidence interval, we would say we are 90% confident that the true population mean number of hours of TV watched per week by, move that out of the way, teenagers age 13 to 17 is between 12.69 and 13.31. Alright, and that's the basics of it. So hopefully that made sense to you and you're able to follow along. And now I would ask that you do the next example on your own, and then in class tomorrow you can ask me about it and I can tell you what the answer was. So there's an example, one example done. I do one, you do one, and then if you get them both right, you should be in good shape for future tests. So good luck, and I will see you tomorrow.